Alright, what's up everybody, my name is Sen, welcome back to another storytime video. I was actually in between a toss-up of two videos for a storytime, and I did have my friend select the one that he wanted, but I'm actually going to go with the opposite one because I recall it a bit better, and I'm firing off the hip for this video. I'm likely going to have to edit out a lot of mistakes, but let's get into things. Now, myself and some other friends have a friend named, or I guess that we will name Jason for this video. Jason's a good dude. We used to work together a long time ago. He moved to Vegas quite some time ago now, and every so often he'll come back down and visit. Now, Jason usually brings whatever girl he's dating with at the time, and from time to time that results into some problems, but this time actually wasn't one of those. So myself, Brody, and Tyson were planning a night out for Jason. Jason said he wanted to visit some barcades, and we were totally down for that. So my initial plan was to meet up with Brody and Tyson and head to a barcade, the three of us together, and meet up with Jason. That was my plan. That was kind of how we executed things, but that's not exactly how things went down as well. I'm not gonna lie, Brody snapped me back to reality because I completely forgot that Jason isn't exactly punctual. He's not known for being punctual. Back when we used to hang out, we'd say, okay, let's meet at this place at 12. Well, he would get there at 5. I love you, Jason. If you know who you are, you know. So we all said to Jason, like, oh, hey, we have work, we're going to meet you after work, and we'll go have some drinks, we'll have a good night out, so on and so forth. Now, I forget the first place that we met up at, but it was more of a standard, like, kind of kids arcade with a bar to the side of it for the adults, but it's more like a fun factory or like a Dave & Buster's kind of thing. Not really arcade machines, but we'll be getting to that with the next one. Now, we actually wanted to have drinks before Jason actually got there, but the bar wasn't exactly open. Now, Tyson, Brody, and I were actually just playing pool for a little while we waited on Jason, but as I said, Jason was taking his sweet time. We were all kind of speculating that he was getting intimate with his lady friend. It was all good. I pretty much said to my friends that, like, oh, hey, whether Jason does get here eventually, like, I'm just looking at this as like a good night out with the boys. And yeah, that's pretty much what it was. So we played pool for a little while. We played some arcade games. I happened to find one of the few fighting game cabinets that were in there, and I was messing around on some Street Fighter V. Now, it was actually pretty hilarious to me how good my friends thought I was, because I'm okay at Street Fighter V. I've played a bit of ranked here and there, but Street Fighter isn't exactly my forte. It's still a fun game, still very much enjoyed myself. But we were just having fun. We were playing like the Batman games, we were playing basketball, we were playing the pitching machine, the punching machine, this, that, the other. We were just having a good time. But before we even got there, I actually had to convince Tyson and Brody to actually have a night out because they had work tomorrow, and I convinced them to come out and just take the next day off. This was our only real day to meet up with Jason, so I convinced them to take it. But anyways, getting back to where we were getting pretty warm by messing around on all the arcade games and stuff like that, and myself and Brody were pretty desperate for a drink. Now, like I said, the bar was closed. The person that usually works had to run the counter, and they were pretty short-staffed, so the bar was not open. We played a number of games of pool up until this point, up until I decided, hey, let's just visit a gas station, grab a tall can there, and head on back. So that's what we did. We hit up a 7-Eleven that was pretty nearby. We grabbed some drinks. We each grabbed a tall can, and I was pretty hungry, so I got the taquito things that they have at 7-Eleven. If you guys haven't had those are fucking fire. Oh my god, they're so good. I got like the jalapeno one. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but it was really fucking good with beer. So we drove back to the arcade that we were at from 7-Eleven. It was about like a mile away or something like that. We hung out in the parking lot, and someone across from us pulled up. It was like a group of friends. There was like 2 chicks in the front seats and 2 dudes in the back seats. But it was just really weird because they were taking a bunch of selfies and Instagram pictures and stuff like that, and I get it, you know, you want to take some pictures, but they were there for a while taking pictures. They were there for like a good 10 minutes. Now, I bet you're wondering what we did with those tall cans. We got into the parking lot of the arcade, and we chugged them. I think I cracked mine open at the 7-Eleven. I wasn't driving or anything, but Brody and Tyson cracked theirs open once we got back in the parking lot. Let me just say, we were having fun before at the arcade, but after drinking a tall can pretty fast, we were having that much more fun. We were playing Dance Dance Revolution, we were playing one of the like light jump rope games, we were just playing all kinds of stuff, having a great time. Now, fast forwarding a couple hours is when we finally met up with Jason. Jason finally made it to the arcade, and we were feeling good. Now, I don't know why, but Jason and his girlfriend were pretty adamant about visiting this other barcade, Press Start, I believe. It's a very cool place, very nostalgic, but myself, Tyson, and Brody were having a great time just at the arcade that we were already at. I think as soon as Jason got there, we migrated. I think it was about 9 o'clock by this time, and we decided to head out. Now, nobody was drunk, don't get that into your mind. We were there at the arcade for a couple of hours, so we were fine. Tyson was actually the one driving, and after Tyson had his tall can, he didn't drink for the rest of the night. So myself, Tyson, and Brody, we made it on over to Press Start, we met up with Jason, and we headed inside. Now, I won't lie, this place is pretty cool. It had a ton of cabinets, it had all the cabinets you could think of, things like asteroids, Pac-Man, like a Star Wars TIE Fighter kind of game. That was actually pretty rad. And for me, the creme de la creme, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. To me, it was insane that they had a old school version of this cabinet. It was absolutely crazy, and I'm so stoked that they are now releasing the arcade 1-up Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cabinets. I want one so bad, but I don't know if I could afford it, and on top of that, I also don't know where I would put it. Now, apart from the cabinets, they had things like Deer Hunter, and I think they had Time Crisis. I might be mistaken with that one. They had the Mario, old school Mario cabinet, and a whole bunch of pinball machines in the back. Now, that was just the front room. The back room was where the bar actually was. They had like more old school consoles like an SNES, an Atari. They also had an N64, things like that. Just old school retro consoles that they had. Now, we were having a good time, but Brody and I were looking at each other, and we were pretty thirsty. So he and I had a shot. We had some rum. I think we had some Sailor Jerry or something like that. So I believe I bought the first shot, and actually Brody and I hit another one back to back because we were trying to have a good night. Now, I have no problem with the old school barcade, the retro cabinets, but they honestly just weren't as fun as the more Dave and Buster's kind of arcade style. Like, we were just having more fun there. I convinced Brody to play some Marvel vs. Capcom 2 with me. I did win, but I honestly had no idea what I was doing because I've never actually played the game all that much, but I would love to learn it personally. Now, by this time, it was actually getting pretty late. We were all getting ready to head out, and I happened to feel the side of my pants. Now, I normally hook up my keys to one of the belt loops, and I brushed my hand past one of my belt loops where I have my keys, and they weren't there. Now, immediately, I started freaking out. My heart absolutely dropped right into my stomach, damn near crapped my pants. So I look at Tyson, I look at Brody, it's like, I don't have my keys. They're like, what do you mean you don't have your keys? I'm like, I do not have my keys. I had my keys, and now I do not. So immediately, we go back inside, we started looking for them, we could not find anything. Now, let it be known, I already parked at Tyson and Brody's apartment, so there wasn't a worry of my car getting stolen, but I lived an hour and 45 minutes away, and I didn't want to have to rely on my girlfriend picking me up. I actually wanted to drive home personally. So we scoured Press Start. It wasn't a big place, so it was pretty easy to get through. We asked the bartender. He said he'd keep his eyes out for him. I gave him my phone number, so in case he found anything, and never got a phone call. Our next plan of attack was to go back to the first arcade that we were at and see if I dropped them there. Which, looking back at it, definitely doesn't make a bit more sense. It was pretty late by this time. I think it was midnight, and I was freaking out. I was like, there's no way that they're still open. And it happened that they closed at 2 a.m., which was pretty clutch. So I asked Tyson, hey, can you gun it back to this place? Because I'm trying to find those sooner rather than later. And on the way, I actually called my girlfriend saying, hey, I don't have my keys. And it was pretty late. She was in bed. She actually blew up her phone a couple of times. She woke up all sleepy like. It was, what do you mean you lost your keys? I'm like, I lost my keys. I don't know where they are. They're not attached to my hip. I always keep them to my belt loop, and they're not there. So she told me to call her back if I found them or not found them, and if she needed to come and pick me up. So a couple more minutes goes by. We get back to this first arcade, and I actually go up to the guy that was managing the counter. I was like, hey, Did you find these keys? He's like, oh, okay, can you describe your keys? Because obviously they're not going to hand out anybody's keys and be like, oh, hey, like, which one are they? So I described them like, oh, okay, there's a hole where this button is. It's kind of bent in. There's a Spider-Man key on it. It's like, oh, yep, I got you, bro. And man, my heart went back. Like, I regurgitated it from my stomach back to where it should be. And I was so relieved. It wasn't a long through time. Like, that whole span where I was looking for my keys was probably for about 30 minutes in total, but that was the worst 30 minutes of my life. The first arcade was a lot more physical, like there was a lot more jumping around and stuff like that, and the actual hook for my keys is not as strong as it once was, so it's very likely that one of those times when I was jumping around is when they came off. But it was so clutch. I was so fortunate that this place was open until 2 a.m. I was also even more fortunate that the clerk himself found them and no scummy person picked them up and tried to find where my car was. I mean, they wouldn't have found it anyways because I was parked at the homie's apartment. But ultimately, that night ended with a sigh of relief. If I was at all still buzzed from having 2 shots with Brody, yeah, that was quickly alleviated by the fear of crapping my pants because I lost my keys. So I was more than good to drive home by this time. It had been some time since we had the drinks, headed home, and slept my heart attack away. Now, if there's anything to learn from this video, it is to keep better track of your keys, or maybe even keep them in my pocket, or keep them in our pockets, your pockets, my pockets. Regardless, learn from me, keep good track of your keys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.